Yo, what's up everyone? In this review I'm going to be checking out Far Cry 2 after playing it for my first time ever. I'll be going through the plot, the gameplay, and then my overall and final thoughts on the game. Let's get into it. You play as a mercenary, hired to assassinate the Jackal, a notorious arms dealer who's supplying weapons to both sides of a brutal civil war in a fictional African country. Upon arrival, you collapse from malaria, and then the Jackal finds you first. Instead of killing you, he delivers a vague and mysterious monologue about the uselessness of violence. He then drops his pistol and disappears, seeing you as another guy in the machine of war. Not a threat, but just part of the problem. You then wake up in the middle of a conflict between two factions, UFFL and APR. Both are equally corrupt, self-interested, and just are willing to exploit anyone, which includes you. To survive, you start doing jobs for both sides, including sabotage missions, escorts, and assassinations, all under the illusion of helping to bring stability, whereas in reality, you're just prolonging the conflict. And the malaria is a constant threat. You need to acquire medicine regularly through underground contacts or humanitarian aid workers. As the game progresses, the Jackal reappears, and his philosophy becomes clearer. He believes that the only way to stop the war is through complete collapse, and for both factions to destroy themselves. He manipulates events from behind the scenes, and he uses you as a tool to further his plan. Throughout the journey, you meet other mercenaries called buddies, who offer help or side missions, but many of them die, betray you, or lose hope, showing the psychological toll of the war. After all the chaos and the challenges, the Jackal gives you a final choice. One of you must die to ensure the refugees escape, and to erase all traces of the conflict. Either blow yourself up with a switch, or take the diamonds and bribe the border guards. The game ends without showing what you chose. Either way, your character dies, and the war ends with one final sacrifice. Now, moving on to the gameplay, in general there was a huge improvement in quality from the original Far Cry to the second. The scenery was solid, and the open world environment just gave you so much freedom to go exploring, including jungles, deserts, small towns and military camps that were scattered throughout. Every part of it feels alive and also dangerous, as you have to watch out for enemy patrols or ambushes where you keep getting randomly attacked. Talking about combat, there were much more different types of guns, from AK-47s to shotguns, RPGs. The list goes on, but the problem is that each weapon could break or it could jam, and it always happened when you need your gun the most. They also finally added heals to the game, which was a major relief after Far Cry 1, where there were barely any heals, so now you could carry syringes with you at any time. There were these little bottles you'd see every now and then that would give you full health, and it was so good to see finally. It was mostly pretty fun when you were in the action, but the negatives of this game, in my opinion, outweigh the positives. Firstly, guns would jam right when it's at the worst time. NPCs would glitch a lot, and that would just make it so annoying, as it was harder to talk to them. Having to constantly sort out malaria pills was also a pain. There was no fast travel, so having to travel across the map was pretty annoying at times. There was no autosave, so you'd have to frequently save by yourself, and if you don't and then die, you'd have a chunk to play again by yourself. You can't drive through any outpost without getting chased. Literally, you could be there for 1 second and then next you've got 3 cars chasing you, all with turrets. That was so annoying. There's also animals in the game, but they don't really do anything, they're just there for vibes. You can't do anything with them until Far Cry 3. If you're stranded without a car, then you're finished, and you better love walking, because you'll have to walk for ages. And with the stamina bar running out quickly, it made it so much worse. In the early phases of the game, I felt like the game was a little repetitive, because you constantly have to complete similar missions like sabotaging enemy equipment, or like assassinating targets, or rescue someone from a checkpoint. and whilst the game gives you different environments, it starts to feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. Another thing that makes the way that the missions are given more annoying, it's not like most open world games where you could just pick up any mission from a list, or like an objective maker. You have to go back to contacts or faction leaders each time you want a new task. So you'd have to travel there to get the task and then travel again to actually complete it. And sometimes you just want to get straight into the action, whereas here you have to wait for a mission to be handed to you with some long boring dialogues that will never change, they're always the same. And it's not even the waiting that gets to you, it's when you do a mission, it's often just a repeat of what you've already done. Sent to a checkpoint, take out some enemies, go back. It's literally the same thing over and over again, and it just felt like I wasn't progressing in any way, and that the story wasn't really changing at all until you get to the second half of the game where everything starts to change. One thing that grabs your attention in Far Cry 2 is the ability to choose between several different mercenary characters at the beginning, and it feels like it could be a pretty cool way to make the game feel more personal, because you've got different looks, backstories, just different varieties in the characters you could choose. But the thing is, after you pick your character, it really does not matter, nothing changes. And at the end of the day, the game treats the characters the exact same, so there's no major impact on the story or gameplay. So the choice of character to me feels like kind of a missed opportunity. You don't get any unique dialogue or missions tailored to your mercenary's background. It's just about how it looks and anything meaningful. So if you're hoping that your character choice is going to affect any interactions, then you'll be disappointed. It's like an element that seems cool on paper, but at the end of the day doesn't change anything. The body system could have been something that added an interesting dynamic to the game. Like, the idea sounded good. Throughout your journey you meet other mercenaries' bodies and they will help you in your missions and side missions and whatever. But the problem is that they felt pretty generic, and essentially they all do the same thing and just offer backup during firefights, give you some extra supplies, and then all end up dying, leaving, or trying to backstab you or something. But there's no real character development behind them. You'd expect these bodies to make a bigger impact. Maybe some of them could betray you and have their own arcs that reflect the chaos around them, but instead they're just another part of the grind, showing up just to help you in the exact same way over and over. So it feels like what could have been a really cool system that added emotional depth to the story, it just ends up being another repetitive mechanic. Overall, out of 10, I'd give this game maybe like a 6.7. The game had some realism to it, nice atmosphere, the scenery was very nice, and the quality was a huge upgrade from the original Far Cry. The open world gameplay and the freedom allowed for some random encounters and events which kept stuff somewhat unpredictable and engaging, and the variety in weapons, and even although jamming was annoying, it was something that I hadn't seen in a game before, which I found quite cool. However, the weaknesses, I felt like the missions were way too repetitive. The bodies were boring, characters just were boring, and it was so glitchy, and it made stuff so annoying to play, especially having to travel so far as well. Having no fast travel made things so much more painful than they needed to be. Overall, it's still a solid game. In my opinion, I'd say it's worth buying. It's still very cheap considering it's an old game. Paying £2 is very cheap for this game, and in my opinion it's worth it. You could probably put some mods on or something to get rid of the glitches, and that could just make the experience a whole lot better. Well, overall, decent game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time at Far Cry 3.